We play for the bullets, the hockey sticks and the snowmen, the belly busters, the dimes and the beer hand, the cowboys, the ladies, and the Johnnies. We play for the anticipation, because when the next hand gets dealt, you never know who you're going to meet.
Over to Eric Seidel. He's got aces on the button. It's a $7,000 bet by Seidel, and Ivey does call. The pot is now 26-7. And he bets $25,000 into a 26-7 pot.
But he makes the call. He's not laying down aces.
Unbelievable.
Wow, what a card to get some action going here. The action with Chris Ferguson.
When Chris Ferguson bet 3 streets in a row, he wasn't messing around.
From America and across Europe, the big names have brought the big money to London, and this game is all about making your friends go broke. Each player is starting with a minimum of $100,000 of their own cash, and if they lose it, they can simply reach into their own pockets and buy back in. The starting lineup for this game is a who's who of poker. Lithuanian-born Tony G now lives in Australia. He is a player who likes to impose himself at the table, and after tasting a little bit of success last year, is hungry for more. The American Eric Seidel is used to the bright lights of Las Vegas, 8 World Series of poker bracelets already won, and $7 million already banked through poker. Another American, Seidel and Cunningham, has picked up 5 World Series of poker bracelets and has nearly $10 million worth of cash in the bank. Another American, Andy Block, is a rock, paper, scissors champion and has nearly $3 million in poker tournament prize money. Chris Jesus Ferguson is a man used to success living in Las Vegas. He has $6 million in tournament prize money. Phil Ivey is widely regarded as the best cash game player in the world. This golf fanatic will be confident of adding to his tournament winnings. Heralding from Finland, Patrick Antonius now lives in Las Vegas. He is one to watch, and this tennis player will be looking for the aces. Eric Lindgren is a man who likes to gamble. He has tasted success in 2007 and will be looking to add to his $5.5 million prize fund. Hello and welcome to the FullTiltPoker.com $1 million cash game in association with 50 London. We have got 11 of the world's most notorious high rollers here in the capital city, all trying to make as much profit as possible come the end of the series in order to walk away with the Champions Trophy. Expect hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own money to be going into the pot as we head upstairs to our commentators. Gary Jones, who's alongside David Tuckman.
Eric Seidel, 8 World Series poker bracelets to his name. He's got the button. Eric Seidel, an amazing backgammon player as well. One of the many good players out of New York City.
You find an awful lot of the poker players enjoy backgammon too. Gus Hansen has been rated as possibly the best backgammon player in the world.
600.
By his peers.
Cold. 600 to go. Pass.
These boys have definitely come to play. Raise it up from Phil Ivey. Call from Patrick Antonius. Call from Eric Lindgren. Call from Seidel and Cunningham. Call from Andy Block. And between the lot of them, the best hand is King 9.
Jack.
Board is Jack 4-4 there. And Andy Block had 2 queen. Not 2 queens, but deuce queen.
2,000.
And a little steal play here from Alan Cunningham.
Now, I love this bet by Alan Cunningham. You see a paired board out there. It's a rainbow board as well. If you get called, you know you're in trouble.
Well, if you get called, you quite often can probably give them a jack, and with the reputation Alan Cunningham has, he might even be able to push for a second bluff in this pot. But as it happens, he doesn't have to. He picks that pot up, only risking 2,000 and winning a nice pot.
It's a great spot to bluff. And they're making some drinks here.
3 and 6, please.
Players at this table certainly don't need any drinks. They've been playing lively already.
Yeah, I don't think they need anything to liven up the action.
I, for one, could use a drink, though.
600 to play.
Patrick Antonius with a queen 10 suited here. And he is going to raise it up in early position. Once again, a real aggressive play. Tony G's got him dominated in spades, though. Ace-jack of spades. And he's going to call.
So a bet, a call. Alan Cunningham on the button with the snowmen. He's in there as well.
18 more. 18
well,
more.
that's 3 already to this flop. We've had 5-handed pots. They really have all come to play. At least there are slightly more genuine hands out there this time.
We've got it 3 ways here.
Patrick Antonius, the original raiser with queen 10, rewarded with a 10 on the board. Only 1 overcard for Alan Cunningham as well.
It's actually not a bad flop at all for 2 red 8s. It'll be interesting to see how Alan Cunningham plays it. Patrick Antonius, it was a pre-flop raiser. Of course, he's going to make that continuation bet with top pair.
The question is how you play the 8C. You've got a couple of choices.
Pass.
And then there's also the muck. That's the one he's decided to go for.
I find cash game way more exciting. First of all, you can make more money than in playing tournaments, playing big cash games, and it's about real money. You can lose a lot. So it's a different game, and usually it's very deep stack poker, which is more skill. And I think the best players are the best high stakes cash game players.
Button slides over to Chris Jesus Ferguson. He's our big winner so far, up over $50,000. The cards have really been hitting him in the face today.
100, please.
It's an excellent start for Chris. That difficult blind stealing spot. Phil Ivey in the small blind, Patrick Antonius in the big blind.
Chris Ferguson not really one of those players who wants to steal, though. Eric Lindgren now under the gun in first position, ace-9 offsuit. He's going to lay it down. I was wondering.
Well, he's been quite active so far today. He's up $17,000, and he's played some creative cards, to put it mildly. So it wouldn't have surprised me if he had played the ace-9, but so far it's passed all the way around. It's just blind on blind. These two both have a very aggressive style in tournaments. And here we go in the cash game. Raised up from Phil, called by Patrick. They got, you know, semi-reasonable hands for the blinds. And they both caught a piece of it. There could be a little bit of action going here.
Yeah, flop ace, queen, 5, couple of hearts out there. Normally Antonius wouldn't like the ace out there, but heads up here in the blinds, he might think his king, queen is good.
34.
No deuce in your hand. That's the rule. That's the first
Call.
thing.
We get a bet from Ivey and a call from Antonius. Pot is 11,400. To the turn. Turn is the 9 of hearts. And that's going to give Patrick more outs here. He has the king of hearts in his hand.
It's not up to you anymore. It's what the other guy wants to bet.
And if you're Ivey here, you don't like your kicker, you don't like the third heart. How do you play it?
I think he's. I still would have thought he'd have had a bet here, but obviously I was wrong. This means he's probably going to get a call on the river from the 10.
Have the jackpot.
Yeah, Patrick Antonius with second pair, he's got a queen. And that check on the turn might get him the call.
8.
And he puts out an $8,000 value bet.
Patrick calls straight away. And the ace-6 is going to take this one down for Phil. Yep, check. Got him a caller on the river. He wasn't too sure where he was, I think, Phil. And it's induced the call on the river. These two, the ones that started off with 200,000. The profit and loss shows that Phil Ivey's down almost $50,000. Sounds really bad, but he was down nearly $80,000 earlier on. So he's starting to his recovery. And hopefully he'll be back to 200,000 pretty soon.
OK, we just got a chance in the break now to catch up with Phil Ivey. A tough couple of hours for you. Have you been unlucky or have you made mistakes at the table?
Couple mistakes, and not unlucky at all. Just kind of goofing around and trying some things, and going to figure it out. It's a long day ahead of us, so I'll try and make some things happen. As long as Eric Lindgren doesn't run away like he's planning on, I think I'll be all right.
Pass. Tony G not going to play it.
Pass. Pass.
Phil Ivey with the button now. He's down $48,000, but he played golf earlier.
17.
Wonder if he's won more than that this morning.
He's probably gambled for more than that earlier on today. I don't know whether he's won it or not.
Andy Block raises it up here with the ace-10 offsuit.
He's got a caller from Phil on the button. And from Eric in the big blind. 5s for Phil, and ace-10 as well for Eric Lindgren. So 3 diamonds. The biggest diamond out there at the moment, I believe, is in Andy Block's hand.
You would be correct. Now, Ivey, with position, is going to bet this. And I'm not sure if anybody can call.
Well, he is also winning at the moment with a pair of 5s. He's got the 5 of diamonds he thinks maybe is a backup.
Cool.
Well, I don't like this check call play from Andy. He's been doing it a bit too much so far today. The 7 of diamonds has rewarded him.
Check.
But how does he even know he's good here? I mean, it's one thing if you have the ace of diamonds, obviously, you're calling there.
4,000. Check.
8 of diamonds would be an interesting river card. Would have given them both a straight flush, but that's not going to happen. The jack of diamonds is on the board. Phil Ivey's 5 now counterfeited. He's playing the board.
That's, of course, in Hold'em. It's your best 5 cards.
8.
The 10,000 bet from Phil. An instant call from Andy Block.
10.
Phil's playing the board. He knows as soon as he gets a caller, he's probably bad here. And the bad play by Andy Block, as far as I'm concerned, was rewarded.
To get started, one player is made the nominated dealer or button. Then the 2 players to the left post the small and big blinds. These are force bets to get the action started. The big blind is always double the small, but unlike a tournament, the blinds rarely change. However, they are sometimes increased to spice up the action. We start here with $300 and $600. There's also an ante of $100 per player, which must be paid if they want to play in a hand. Once the blinds and antes are posted, everyone is dealt 2 cards. We have a round of betting. Then 3 cards are placed face up on the table, called the flop. These are the community cards for all the players to use. Then we have another round of betting, after which the 4th card, the turn, is placed in the middle. This is followed by some more betting and the last community card, the river. Then we finish off with a final round of betting. The best 5-card hand takes the money.
Action on Seidel, he's not going to play. Seidel Cunningham, not going to play. Over to Andy Block.
Pass. Pass.
Chris Ferguson not going to play. You know, Chris Ferguson up over $50,000. He's pretty much guaranteed to be a winner now, isn't he?
He is. It's going to take some sort of set over set miracle for Chris to get off those
18.
chips. Although to his credit, he has mixed it up a little bit, and he's been rewarded so far. A pre-flop raise from Phil here, called by Eric out of the small blind, and from Tony G in the big blind.
Yeah, well, Phil Ivey's raises are not getting much respect. They know that Phil Ivey's here to gamble. Flop comes out 10-9-5.
Check. Check.
And it looks like Lindgren's got the best of it right now.
4.
Tony G with a gut shot straight draw.
Well, there we see what Phil Ivey's raising it up with, the 9-3 of spades.
Pass.
Wow, he's managed to get that one through. No call from Eric, despite having second pair. A bit surprised about that one.
Action over to Alan Cunningham. Takes a peek at his cards. And
Pass. Pass.
he can just wait there all day for cards, can he?
He certainly can.
Pass.
Patrick Antonius is going to
21.
play here. The theme of the day, these kind of odd cards, 7-3 suited. He's raising it up.
Oh.
Lindgren's going to call him with a couple of snowmen. We've got Baldy 1 versus Baldy 2.
Yeah, there's a
But Seidel is going to enter the party.
I was going to say something about a distinct lack of hair in this pot, but I don't know how Eric could react to that.
Check.
Well, Lindgren's 8s are still good. Every player got a little piece of it. And they're all going to check to Eric
4,005.
Lindgren.
Pass.
He's going to bet.
I'll be curious to see how Patrick wants to play this. He's raised it up with 7-3. He's caught middle pair, which is about as good as you're going to catch on a semi-regular basis. Check and a call.
Yep, he's going to call that. Surprised Patrick didn't just bet out, being the pre-flop raise, try to represent the queen. Turn is a 10 of spade. It is the third spade. You wonder if Patrick's going to try to represent spades
Check.
here. Nope, he's going to check it.
Check.
Gone check, check.
Put on eBay.
Well, the 8s are looking a little bit more comfortable now.
There, you got to like him now. Lindgren backs into a straight there.
Check.
Had the gut shot.
Picture of you, not the other piece.
Obviously can't beat a flush, but I think he's quite certain that his 8 is good here.
As long as Patrick doesn't stick about 50,000 in there, I'm expecting this one to go to Eric.
The grilled cheese Jesus?
No, I didn't see
They
that.
put your avatar in a grilled cheese.
There's really not much Patrick can beat here. He couldn't beat the queen, can't beat spades,
Play with that one.
and he can't beat a straight.
In fact, pretty well the only thing he can beat is a bluff.
And you almost have to manufacture a hand that Lindgren would be bluffing with here. And he's going to call that. Wow, great value bet by Lindgren. Patrick Antonius obviously didn't think he had anything. Pays him off. And this is the second time we saw Antonius pay off a big bet with what was not a premium hand. We saw him earlier against Ivey, and here again.
The greatest aspect of poker is the ability to compete. And sure, in the short term, you know, a guy might get lucky, and you can get lucky in one day or whatever. But in the long run, you can prove that you're a great player just by continually having.
Button slides over to seat number 1. That's Tony G. Eric Seidel and Alan Cunningham in the blinds. This is a ripe one for stealing, huh?
Yeah, these two
Pass.
really have been pretty tight. Of course, we've seen Alan re-racing with 4-5 of diamonds, but for the most part, it's been pretty solid from these two.
And pass.
Show the world
Well.
how you're playing.
2,000.
Tony G taking advantage of the button and the blinds.
Now, he wouldn't need a hand to actually steal this one, but with 6s, I think he's definitely going to play it.
Were we playing the 70s game?
Alan Cunningham with the worst hand in poker, 7 deuce offsuit. He's not going to play that one. Pick a better spot. And the magic of Alan Cunningham really is, hasn't really picked up a hand all day. Yet he's finding a way to stay even. He still is right about 100,000 without even picking up a hand. Really amazing.
Well, that's why he's won about $9 million in tournament winnings. He really is one of the best players in the world.
If you remember the $1 Million Cash game last year, he was the only player to actually lay down pocket aces and lay them down correctly.
Yeah, he played that very, very well. A lot of people would have gone broke in that pot. He managed to recognise his aces were no good. And there wasn't even an obvious clue like an open pair or 4 to a flush or something like that. He just knew he was beat, got off the hand, and that's why he is as good as he is.
Yes. Cool.
And Eric Lindgren's going to play that. He's got king, queen offsuit. And Tony G definitely going to play the ladies there.
Racing it up to what looks like 2,100.
Now Lindgren had limped in with king, queen offsuit in kind of middle-ish position.
Well, it's definite call here from Eric, knowing his game.
Not a spot I like to call with there. Out of position with king, queen, a hand that's easily dominated.
Well, he's played it in such a way that he's going to... Wow, what a flop for the king, queen. And the queens are probably going to like it too.
Well, you look at this. Tony G's got the overpair. He's open-ended straight draw here. And Lindgren's got the absolute nuts. Oh, this is a money flop.
Cool.
Well, we've already seen that Tony G has been able to lose the minimum in a lot of the pots that he's played. Wow, 3 hearts out there as well.
That might slow the action down a little bit, but Tony G still has the queen of hearts, Lindgren with the king of hearts. Lindgren can only chop this pot.
Cool.
He cannot lose this pot at all.
Wow, this really is unlucky for Tony G.
The river, the 5 of spades changes nothing here. The pot is $34,500. And Lindgren has bet it the entire way. Never looked for a check raise.
Yeah, he's played this hand beautifully.
And it looks like he's betting 16,000. And Tony G is going to call this, and he is going to lose a $66,000 pot. Wow.
Drawing dead. Hang on, did you count it? Was it too much?
Yeah, it was right.
Here we are with the ranking of the hands. First we have high card. In this case, a king high would win it. Then we have 1 pair. In this case, pair of aces. Then 2 pair. Jacks and 9s will do it. Then 3 of a kind. 3 of the same one. 3 4s. Then we have a straight. 5 cards in order, not the same suit. Then a flush, 5 cards, the same suit. 5 hearts will do it. Then we have a full house. 3 7s, 2 kings. This would be 7s full of kings. 4 of a kind, 4 kings. Then we have a straight flush, 5 cards in order, all the same suit. And here's the most beautiful hand in the world. Royal flush, 10, 2 ace, all the same suit. Buttons in front of Andy Block there. Actions on Patrick Antonius. He's under the gun. And he is not going to play.
Pass.
All right, maybe not. I never read one of Daniel's blocks. Not one.
2,000.
And Seidel is going to play this. He's got ace-8 offsuit. He's going to raise it up. He makes it 2,000 to go.
7.
I love this play. Last time Cunningham did this, he had 5-4 diamonds. This time he's got the ace-king offsuit.
I don't think it's really going to make much difference to whether Eric decides to call the raise. I think he's still going to muck it.
If you start talking about your dog on your block, Ryan, I'll read it.
And sure enough, you're right. Eric Seidel does get out of the way. And Alan Cunningham wins about $3,500 risk-free.
Not bad work if you can get it.
And after 36 hands, let's take a look at the leaderboard here. Tony G down 42,000. Really has played well, but unfortunately for him, hasn't worked out. Eric Seidel up 32,000. Alan Cunningham hasn't played much, but hey, he's still up 2,500. And if we take a look at Phil Ivey, nearly down $60,000.
Where did Eric Lindgren get his 64,000 from? He's the biggest winner in this game, hasn't really had a premium hand, and he's mixed it up really well.
Yeah, fortunately for him, that king-queen hand, when he flopped the straight against a pair of queens, really paid off big.
like Diet Coke with ice. It's hard to tell which you get to tell which game.
Eric Lindgren, a good poker player, a good golfer, and a good basketball player. He does it all. Not much hair there. He's doing okay, though.
Chris is trying to laugh.
Action is on Eric Lindgren. He's going to throw it away there.
It's like a laugh track in a sitcom, and they need a little extra. Hit Fergie.
We need Perry Freeman with this hand.
Cool.
Tony G's going to limp in here with a couple of threes.
Keeping it cheaping enough that if someone raises, you can call it.
Out here, first class
all these knuckleheads have all this money.
There'd be a lot of cash games if they just had cameras around all the time.
Alan Cunningham with the suited connector there.
True.
And he is going to raise it up here.
3,006.
His image is such that he can raise it up with those speculative hands. And people give him credit for a big hand.
Yeah, he's trying to pick this one up uncontested. I think that's quite a decent size raise. But if Phil Ivey calls, which it looks like he wants to, he has. That's likely to bring in Tony G, and it has. So this one's going to be 3 to the flop. And the biggest card between the three of them is the 8.
Well, online. But live cash game.
And the 8 catches, but still a very dangerous board.
11,000?
Cunningham way ahead, obviously. Hard for him to know that, though. Now, he is in position if they check it to him. And he's going to take the card. He doesn't like the flop either. Deuce of hearts on the turn changes nothing here.
It's about the only small card he did want to see with pocket 3s and pocket 4s out there.
Pot is 12,200.
I'm getting there.
Check.
Best of sports this weekend, Chris?
And this might be one of those where whoever bets takes it down. It's going to go check around one more time. And the river is a 6 here.
$2.75. Actually, no. He only bet $2. I bet him $2.75.
Check.
And Cunningham with a pair of 8s has the best hand.
Check.
This one's going to be checked around. The two small pocket pairs possibly think they're good here.
It was a pretty long one. I think you probably had the best of it, but I couldn't refuse.
But now they get to see what Alan Cunningham's raising it with. He's going to pick up a $10,000 pot with 8-7.
Chris Ferguson there with the hat and the glasses. Really, really difficult to get a read on him.
Yeah, he's got a very good pause as well, but as he depends on exactly what he wants to do. It's very hard to decide whether that pause is a show of strength or a show of weakness. He really has got that kind of body language down very good. Another raise here from Chris. He's mixing up his raise amounts.
Yeah, ace-jack offsuit, not a great hand.
Looks like he's going to get a bit of action this time. Patrick Antonius has had enough of passing. He's in there with the 9-7 of clubs.
Well, I don't mind the call here. You think Chris Ferguson raising from early position probably has a big hand. 9-7 suited is the hand you can crack him with.
Exactly, and Chris has already showed that he's going to make a continuation bet. You're probably going to get paid, but that looks like a raiser's flop, and it is.
Yeah, not much there for Patrick Antonius. You imagine you get a little continuation bet. Look at this, though. Chris Ferguson mixing it up a little bit. He's going to check it. And Patrick Antonius checks behind. 10 of hearts changes nothing. In fact, Patrick Antonius is now drawing dead. He cannot win the pot. Unless he bluffs Ferguson out. And he checks again.
Well, he's desperately trying to get a bet.
And at this point, Ferguson has checked it twice. Why not just check it a third time and maybe get your opponent to bluff at it? But now he's going to put a little value bet out there. And can't imagine Antonius calling here with 9 high.
Yes.
Nope, Patrick lets it go, and Chris wins that one. He could have won it pretty well at any stage, I think. I think his best play would have been a check on the river there, as you mentioned.
Buttons in front of Eric Seidel. Yes. Alan Cunningham in the small blind. Andy the rock block in the big blind.
On paper, it seems like a really good blind to try and steal here.
1,008.
Those two unlikely to defend it with anything other than strong hands.
Yes.
Well, Phil Ivey's doing just exactly that with the 10-5 suited.
I think he went to the same school. Tony G. He's played ace-7 earlier on. He's a bit on the back foot right now. He's our biggest loser, down about $45,000 at the moment. One caller, the big blind of Andy Block.
And that's a very liberal call there with the king-4 of spades. And look at that, he flops the flush. But Ivey's got absolutely nothing.
3,000.
And you get a continuation bet here from Ivey. And you imagine once he gets called, he's probably going to be done with it.
Andy trying to decide whether he wants to re-raise, hope he's up against an overpair to the board and get some action, or just leave Ivey up front and hopefully let him bury himself.
Well, no, it looks like a big check raise there. And unless Ivey thinks that Block is making a move, this hand's going to be over very quickly.
Nope, nothing too creative from Phil. He releases and Andy takes that pot down.
And after 42 hands, a look at the leaderboard here. Tony G down $45,000, but he's not our big loser. Our big loser is Phil Ivey, down nearly $70,000. Our big winner of the night so far, Eric Lindgren, up over $63,000. And right behind him, Chris Ferguson, Chris Jesus Ferguson, up almost $52,000.
Welcome back to the FullTiltPoker.com $1 million cash game in association with 50 London. We've had a chance to catch our breath after some exciting action. Let's hope for more as we rejoin our commentators Gary Jones and David Tuckman.
And the button is in front of Alan Cunningham. Small blind, $300. Andy Block, big blind, $600. Chris Jesus Ferguson. Phil Ivey is first to act. He's under the gun.
I hit the ball once. About 20 tries.
You putted a few times at the World Series, I remember.
Phil Ivey used to play in Atlantic City before he was legal under the surname of Jerome with a fake ID.
You know, that's one fact I didn't actually know about Phil. That shows how he got his experience. Flat call from Phil, flat call from Patrick Antonius. Both these players started with 200,000 in chips, and between the two of them, they're two of the three biggest losers at the moment. They obviously thought they could beat the game and wanted to sit down deep, put the pressure on, but it's not working for them so far. At the moment, it's 6 to the flop.
6 players.
Andy Block with pocket fours. Chris Ferguson only in there because he's the big blind. He has no choice. Flop comes out Jack 10 Queen. Couple of clubs out there.
Checked.
You took my suit on the green.
Checked. Checked.
And it looks like Seidel. That's a real interesting hand. He's got King 10 here.
8 hours. You wait until the end
And he is going to bet King 10 of hearts.
You're on the bench in the basketball game, sir. I want to get you in.
He's got bottom pair, and he's an open-ended straight draw.
5,000.
He's betting 5,000, which is around the size of the pot, slightly over.
And he is going to take it down.
Couldn't see you winning.
No.
Nice ruling, mate, Bill. You're on for double now. You just hit the club. Drew is opening up.
Tony G. The Mouth, originally from Lithuania, now makes his home in Australia. Just bought in for another $50,000. His stack had dwindled down to about $63,000, and he wants to make some noise, so he's bought in for another $50, bringing himself to over $100.
Yeah, he got off to a very bad start. Very unlucky. 2 big hands. Both times they were dominated. And he's decided to give himself a chance to get out of it. Eric limping in first position. Round to the mouth from down under, Tony G. Another caller, Eric Seidel. Suited ace for $600. Alan in there as well with his 10 jack.
All these players trying to see a cheap flop.
Well, they've got there so far. There's only Patrick Antonius who can spoil the party. 6 of them to the flop.
Looking at me.
And he is going to spoil it.
5,000 more.
And that's why he's doing it. That massive hand, the 7-4 of clubs in the big blind.
He probably thinks he's playing blackjack.
Bit of a dead money pickup here. Once the first guy's called and the rest start limping in, they're all calling for value. They don't really have much of a hand. That bigger bet is really just an attempt to try and pick up the pot there and then. And that's what's happened. Good read from Patrick. $4,000 go to him risk-free.
Now, if you know your opponent is prone to doing that, how do you combat that?
Well, it means that if you're the second or third person into the pot, there's been a couple of limpers and you're actually sitting there with pocket queens or something like this, you can flat call and hope that one of these players like Phil Ivey and Patrick Antonius, who are going to be very sharp, they're going to spot opportunities to try and do a dead money pickup. They're going to raise it and you can repop them or even leave them up front.
Eric Lindgren in the big blind. Interesting story about Eric Lindgren. During the World Series of Poker, Gavin Smith and Phil Ivey proposed a bet to him where he had to play 4 rounds of golf in the Vegas heat. We're talking 115 degrees heat. He had to play 4 rounds of golf carrying his own bag and shoot under 100 each time.
600 to play. Pass.
Yeah, all in one day. That's what made it really incredible. You're limited by sunlight, you're going to be absolutely exhausted. And he is a very good player, Eric Lindgren, but to complete 4 rounds, all sub 100 in one day is just incredible. Well, he made it, but apparently, I think he said it's lost a couple of years off his life doing that. It's going to be totally exhausting.
The bet in question, $300,000.
Well, maybe that's worth losing a couple of years off your life for, I don't know.
8 to 10 jack.
Jack 10-8, couple of spades out there. Phil Ivey with top pair. It's not a bad flop at all. He's got top pair and an open-ended straight draw.
Andy Block just with a middle pin. He can catch a 9 for a straight. Can't imagine him calling this.
Obviously not much credit to that gut shot there. Action is on Eric Seidel. He's first to act.
600 to go.
Once again, the blinds are 300, 600 with a $100 ante. It's 1,700 to play around here.
Pass.
Kind of forces these players to play some hands.
Yeah, 1,700 around. It's too expensive to really just sit there and pass.
Ivey, who doesn't need an excuse to play.
Yep, he's raising it up and doesn't usually need too much. He's got a caller out of Tony G, and that's what Phil's raising it up with. 10-7 offsuit, just a standard cut-off kind of raise. And he's actually winning right now. Tony G with 4-3 defending in his big blind. Wow, 3 4s flop to straight. Not much for Phil.
Check.
But Tony's setting the trap with a check.
3,000.
I'll get a continuation bet out of Ivey, and that's pretty much it. Ivey does not have a club in his hand. Really has nothing at all.
Re-raise from Tony. That should shut this one down.
6 more.
Straight away.
And sure enough, Tony G takes it down. One of the problems with calling an aggressive player like Ivey with speculative hands like 4-3 is that Ivey doesn't necessarily need a big hand to make that raise.
Yeah, and the thing about trying to snap off a big hand with the 4-3 is you have to be up against a big hand, and like you say, Phil probably doesn't have to have one to actually make that raise.
Action is on Seidel Cunningham, 2005 World Series Poker Player of the Year.
Who won on that?
He's up 110.
I'm going to obviously give it to them unless I'm told not to.
Block reaching for his chips, and that's why. Ace, Queen of Spades.
1,800 to play.
He's made it 1,800. Standard 3 times the big blind raise.
Andy Block has really settled himself after a rocky start.
And some questionable play.
18's called.
Well, that's an interesting play there.
Speaking of questionable play, here's a Queen 4 on the button.
Pass.
He's hoping to use his position and his aggression. Eric Seidel defending with his 7-5.
One thing we've seen all day from Lindgren is he likes to play those hands in position.
Well, the door card's pretty good for Andy Block, and it only gets better.
Yeah, nothing there for anybody else. You imagine a bet here from Block will take it down.
And it does.
Pass, pass.
I think their hands were practically in the muck faster than Andy Block's chips were in the middle, so that one pretty standard.
Andy Block really stepped in it right out of the gate, but he has made a nice comeback here. Earlier he was down almost 50,000, and now he's only down about 20. Of course, I say only.
So the players continue to splash the chips as egos collide. Join us again after the break as the action continues to hot up. Welcome back. 11 of cards' sharpest shooters are playing for as much profit as possible and for a chance to walk away with the Champions Trophy here at the FullTiltPoker.com $1 Million Cash Game. Let's hand you straight back to your commentators, Gary Jones and David Tuckman.
Patrick Antonius always lucky with the ladies. Not so lucky today, up down over $40,000 already. Button slides over to Eric Seidel. Small blind. Alan Cunningham, big blind. Andy the block. Rock.
Pass. 600 to play. 2,000 to play.
Those carefully stacked chips hiding the 9-7 of spades of Phil Ivey.
And this has pretty much been the theme of the day as well. We've seen Ivey raising it with some questionable hands, and Tony G almost always calling him.
Yeah, and here's Alan Cunningham in the pot as well with his 5-4 of diamonds. This one's three-handed to the flop.
3 players.
Pot's a little over $7,000 right now to the flop.
9 ace.
The 9-court Phil.
Check.
Now, if you're Ivey, you don't want to see 1 ace, but 2 aces is okay.
Passed.
Yeah, his bet's going to take this one down. And another pot gets Phil Ivey ever closer to getting out of it. He was stuck beforehand. At almost $80,000. Now it's closer to 30,000.
Phil Ivey told me a story during the break where he turned $400 into $40,000 at a roulette table. And the action is on Phil Ivey. Let's see if he can get that luck from the roulette table over to the poker table.
It's pass. 600 to play. Pass.
First position 9-3 offsuit. Not quite Phil Ivey's kind of hand. Passed round to Eric Seidel, who pumps it up to 2,000 in the cut-off position. Alan Cunningham on the button, calling with a weaker ace, but with position.
Pass.
And you won't see Alan Cunningham calling that out of position, but on the button, he thinks it's playable.
So these two to the flop.
4-5-7.
7-5-4 rainbow there. Seidel still ahead. Cunningham has picked up a wheel draw. He can catch a deuce.
Check.
You can also catch a 6, but if he does, it's going to get him into trouble.
Exactly.
Makes a bigger straight for Eric. That gives him a flush draw.
Check.
A lot of cards here for Alan Cunningham. He can catch a 3, a deuce, or a club.
Or he can bet and take it, which is what it looks like is going to happen.
Probably the best way to do it.
The advantage with the bet, of course, it's a semi-bluff. If he gets a caller, he's got plenty of cards he can hit to get out of it.
And Seidel's going to fold there. It's interesting. Seidel might not think Cunningham has much, but he has less.
Or at least he'll feel like he has less anyway.
Yeah.
What do you want to bet? How about that? I know he can outrun. What do you want to bet? You can't run a 5
Phil Ivey in the big blind here.
I got no shot today.
Action is on Patrick Antonius.
I got no shot in here either. But
No shot. It's a 6-minute round. Depends how much is like betting on it.
He could have a shot if he would actually go for
Queen
it.
10 offsuit.
He knows
I want to bet you can.
Not a hand he's going to play in first position.
Round to Tony.
I don't
Still stuck, but not tilting. Tony G has not played many hands since he pulled up the extra 50,000 he needed.
I've been quite impressed with Tony G's play today.
Yeah, so have I. Don't think he's done too much wrong. Just goes to show
1,800.
you don't have to have you don't have to play bad to get stuck in this kind of a game. Button raised by Andy Block.
12.
Only one man to get through. When it's Phil Ivey, it's not going to happen that you will get through it very often.
Phil, we put the cards on, please.
It's one of those times you go, it's only one man, but sometimes when you're playing against Phil Ivey, it feels like playing 3 men.
2 players. King 8-5.
Andy Block has outflopped him now.
2,000.
How do you play this if you're Phil?
Looks like he's going to do a little check raise here.
With 4 more.
I want to find out where I am. I know you're going to make a continuation bet on this flop. I want to see if you've actually got any of it.
And it's a tough spot for Andy Block here. He's got second pair.
And a bad kicker to go with it. So.
4's cold.
But he's decided to call. Let's see if that slows Phil down or not.
Queen.
Needs one more decent-sized bet to probably power this one through, especially with another big scare card.
And you wonder what Andy Block is calling with there. Since, does he think Ivey's making this move with spades?
Or with nothing, you know. He
Exactly.
could just decide that his opponent's got none of this.
14,000.
Phil Ivey going to fire a second bullet here, $14,000 into a $16,000 pot.
And if you thought it was a tough spot to call on the flop, it's even tougher now.
Well, the problem here for Andy Block also is if you call this bet, you have to know you're probably going to face a good river bet as well. If he calls this bet, it'll be a $46,000 pot. And you might be faced with a good $40,000 bet on the river. I know you're prepared to call that much money off with just a pair of 8s.
I think we're about to get our answer. That one goes to the muck. And Phil Ivey wins that pot. $40,000 in the middle. $30,000 in the middle with the worst hand, pocket deuces. Well, he seems to be taking it quite well. He doesn't know he's just been bluffed.
The best players in the world rarely will show their cards, leave their opponents wondering.
I got to see a little bit how everybody else plays. So when I sit down, I'm just going to be a little bit careful at first, testing the waters here and there, seeing how people react. And then after that, once I get a good sense, once I feel comfortable with the setup, then I'm going to be making a lot more plays.
Action over to Tony G here.
That's a pass.
Button is in front of Chris Ferguson. Tony G not going to play. But Seidel is going to make it $2,000. He's got Queen Jack offsuit in kind of middle position.
Well, we've got the pause from Chris on the button. Pocket 4s. He's got the button. He's got position over Eric. And he's hitting cards at the moment. So, yep, looks like he's going to call this one. Wow, that's a deep reach for a pocket 4s.
I like the play here by Chris Ferguson against Eric Seidel. Probably doesn't think he's going to get paid off even if he hits his set. But he can use his image and maybe win this one without seeing a flop. Phil Ivey with King Jack offsuit. Certainly not going to face a raise and a re-raise from Seidel and Ferguson.
7,000.
No, people you're going to take King Jack up against. Those two aren't really the ones at this table. And Chris wins that one. Strong play with the 4s there.
Yeah, I like the strong, aggressive play. And he has been just killing the game today. Up over $50,000. The 2000 World Series of Champion.
Well, it has been another gripping night here at the table at the FullTiltPoker.com $1 million cash game. Hundreds of thousands of dollars up for grabs in the next show. We'll see you then. But from all of us for now, it's goodbye.